Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me one quick favor, see that little black subscribe button on the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Really does help this channel grow, my audience grow, and I appreciate it more than you know. Thank you again. Now, here's the video that you came here for. All right, everybody, I'm back. Good to be back. Let's get to the rest of the Week 4 slate. Quick reminder, by the way, if you're listening to this on the Aaron Torres podcast feed, you can also make sure to check out all of our game previews, the college football betting show. That's available on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, etc. every Thursday. And oh, by the way, also, we have our own YouTube channel where we not only post shows, but we post individual games. And we actually do some games that don't always end up making it on the show. So make sure to follow on the YouTube channel as well. Let's keep it going. Let's go down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where we have a top 20 matchup between Ole Miss and Alabama. Alabama is at home. They are a 7-point favorite, over-under set at 55.5. And an SEC home opener with a top 20 team in town is supposed to be a grand celebration, excitement, enthusiasm, yet it's all doom and gloom in Alabama, and it's because of the quarterback situation. Now, at this point, we've talked about it a lot, especially on the Aaron Torres pod. I'm not going to go through everything again. But it's worth noting, listen, we know how it went down. Jalen Milroe started the season. He's benched after the Texas game. Tyler Buckner takes his place against South Florida. Tyler Buckner gets benched in the South Florida game. Ty Simpson replaces him. Then Ty Simpson gets benched for Jalen Milroe going into this game. And so a lot of people have had kind of just different takes on what may have happened. Was Jalen Milroe suspended for a game? Did the locker room revolt after he got benched and now Nick Saban was forced to put him back in? I don't think it's anything like that. I think what has happened is Nick Saban has realized that the way that he planned to win games this year is not going to happen. And because of it, he has to change his style of play, change his quarterback once again. What I believe that Nick Saban learned coming out of South Florida is 4 things, most of which anyone who's a college football fan, anyone who was watching the game could kind of tell. The offensive line, at least right now, can't pass block. I'm not an offensive line expert. I will leave it up to the experts, Cole Kubelik, Jeff Schwartz, whomever, to determine what is going on and why it has been so bad. It's not good, though. And because of it, I think what Nick Saban realizes is a couple additional things. One, he's going to have to rely on his defense. His defense is good. I know it's easy to criticize them after the Texas game. Remember, Alabama was leading going into the fourth quarter of that game. Alabama had a lead in the fourth quarter. Alabama's defense held Texas to 13 points going into the fourth quarter before they eventually just ran out of gas and Texas was able to make some plays. Defense is good. O-line not good. Jalen Milroe, most importantly, if the O-line isn't good, if they can't pass protect, Jalen Milroe can at least make plays with his feet, can keep the chains moving, can keep defenses honest, can throw the deep ball. These things all matter. And then I think the other thing that no one's talking about that I guarantee you after this game, people are going to start. I believe that Nick Saban sees this new clock rule, the rule in which the clock does not stop after first downs. And I believe he is ready to exploit that. And the one thing about Nick Saban that I think we give him credit for, but it is worth mentioning, Nick Saban, I think one of his greatest gifts among the many great gifts that he has is that he is great at learning the rule book, learning new rules, and figuring out ways, I don't want to say to manipulate or to take advantage of them, but to within the rules, take advantage of them. You go back a decade. Does anyone besides me remember gray shirts? For those of you under 20, gray shirts were essentially when you recruited a recruiting class, you could sign guys in a class and then not enroll them until January. And so they wouldn't count for that class. Okay. So you could sign 32 guys, but as long as only 25 of them showed up on the first day that players could report, you could have 5, 6, 7 that counted towards the next class. And so that was a way that Nick Saban manipulated the system at the time. Rule gets changed. You can only sign 25 guys. Remember, Nick Saban was the guy that was outspoken about the old clock rules about tempo and speed and this and that. What does he do? He goes and hires Lane Kiffin to be his offensive coordinator. Let's keep it going. Didn't like the transfer portal. Then he took advantage of it. Didn't like NIL, building that infrastructure out. So I believe Nick Saban, what he sees right now is another opportunity to take advantage of a new rule. to use Jalen Milroe as a running quarterback, pick up first downs, chew up the clock. His O-line can't pass protect. This is how he has to win games. Now, from the Ole Miss perspective, this game will be fascinating because Ole Miss is one of those teams, they look great on paper. You look at the stats and the numbers and the this and that, you say, oh my goodness, they're coming to Tuscaloosa to win this game. I'm not so sure because while the numbers look great, and they do, Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss through 3 games, the number 4 scoring offense in all of college football. 3 games, 73 points against Mercer to open the season, 37 against Tulane, 48 against Georgia Tech. Number 4 scoring offense, number 11 total offense. What's interesting about this team, though, is if you break it down further, it hasn't been that easy. Took care of Mercer, no problem. That Tulane game, remember, they were playing a backup quarterback at Tulane. It was a 17-17 game going into the fourth quarter. I believe, I could be mistaken on this, Ole Miss, I believe, actually trailed at the half. It was 17-17 going into the fourth quarter. They end up pulling away at Tulane. Last week against Georgia Tech, I'll be honest, I had this game on. I was watching this game. And Ole Miss, it was 17-3 in the third quarter. I turned it off. They ended up scoring 31 points in about the final 20 minutes, last couple minutes of the third quarter into the fourth quarter. So this isn't a team that is just blowing people out. I think this is a team that they're actually relying on their defense. Their offense hasn't been great. And because of it, I do think they'll be tested against this Alabama defense that's pretty good. And so when I look at this game, I don't think it's high scoring, and I don't think Alabama is at a disadvantage. Now, it's going to look different than it did even 2 weeks ago when Jalen Milroe started against Texas. I think Nick Saban's going to take the air out of the ball. I think they're going to run the ball. I think they're going to rely on that defense. And I think they're going to wait for Ole Miss to make mistakes, something they have traditionally done when they've gone to Tuscaloosa. Lane Kiffin, remember, went for 1 million fourth downs a few years ago in what ended up being a blowout loss. And so I think the same thing happens here. I think it's close. I think it's low scoring. I think Alabama wins, but my best bet for this game is actually the under. The under is 55.5. And I think this is super low scoring. I think Alabama wins somewhere in the neighborhood of 21-14, 21-17, chew up the clock, take advantage of the rules. I like the under, and I like an Alabama win straight up. Won't be touching the spread, though.